Hello and welcome to today's webinar on how to get hired faster. I am so delighted you're here. I'm your host, Diana YK Chan, founder of My Marketability, where we help ambitious career changers and job seekers find a meaningful career and a differentiated top talent to get the job they love. Thank you so much for being here today. It's been almost a year since I last delivered my webinar. That's because I had a newborn baby who's now 6 months old and my older son who's 2 years old. So my intention today is to be of service to you, to provide you valuable strategies, tips, and advice on how to get hired faster. So I do have a presentation that I will go into later on. Before I dive into that, let me introduce to you a little bit about myself. So I've always been passionate about helping people achieve greatness and unlock their potential. Hence why I decided to become a career coach, recruiter, speaker, and trainer. I founded My Marketability in 2011 with a mission to discover, develop, and differentiate top talent. Over the last several years, I've had the honor to work with hundreds of professionals and speak in front of thousands of people. I've helped people get into top companies such as Google, LinkedIn, Facebook, Bell, Rogers, and all the top consulting firms, including McKinsey, BCG, and all the top banks as well. So today I would like to share with you also some secrets of how some of my clients have successfully get hired in these top companies, competitive roles with higher salary increases. Okay, so some housekeeping. Make sure you have a pen and paper ready to take notes. I will be sharing my presentation later on that you'll see. However, if you're registered in this webinar, I won't be sharing the slides per se, but you'll get a recording of the video. I'll be answering your questions. Just keep in mind that during my presentation mode, I won't be able to see your questions live. So I will have to wait till the end towards answering your questions. All right, well, thank you so much for everyone who's here so far. Let's have fun today throughout this training. Okay, so let me go into my presentation mode. Just give me a moment here. All right, welcome to this webinar on how to get hired faster. In today's agenda, this is what I'll cover. The 4 key pillars to getting hired faster. How to differentiate as high potential talent and the ideal candidate. Common mistakes made in resume, networking, and interviews. Create a marketable resume that gets you interviews. How to find the right people to network with. How to leverage LinkedIn to network with the right people. Prepare for interviews that make you stand out. At the end, I will answer your questions live. And for those who are interested in working with me, I will also share with you my New Year promo as well. All right, let's dive right in. So the 4 key pillars to getting hired faster. These are what I call my 4 M's. The first is the mindset. Your mindset is key to getting a job. And this is because it gives you clarity, confidence, and courage to move forward. What's critical here is to have a winning mindset. So often when I work with job seekers, I often hear that they have the limiting beliefs, the doubts, or whether they believe in themselves that they actually have what it takes, or whether they deserve a certain earning income as well. So the first step is really working on your mindset. I like to say is to have this winning mindset, that can-do attitude, and have this positive affirmation that I like to say is that I am MVP. I am marketable, valuable, and performance-driven. I am marketable, I'm valuable, I'm performance-driven. Okay. The second M is messaging. So messaging is all about your content and the delivery. The key here is that you want to have consistent and compelling message, because that is what's going to make you memorable and marketable. So how do you go about doing this? Well, the key step here is to really identify what I call your personal brand. What's your key theme? What are your key keywords that highlight your relevant skill set or expertise? What are your key messages? What are the relevant examples to highlight your knowledge, skills, and experience? So a lot of times in the messaging is what I work with clients on, the one-on-one interview coaching, to help them identify their story, their motivational type of answers on, like, why are you the ideal candidate to hire? Why are you interested into this company? The next M is marketing. So the key to success here is you got to have a marketing plan for your job search and networking. You have to have a game plan. And here it's also important that you have really what I call marketing collateral, which includes your resume, cover letter, LinkedIn profile, your elevator pitch. You want to make sure that it is very marketable and very compelling to your employers. So the key of doing this, obviously, is that you want to, going back to the messaging piece, is that you want to have that consistent brand and really think about, what's the first impression that you want to give when people see your resume or see your LinkedIn profile? What's that tone that you want to set? Do you give the impression that you are a high performer and high potential candidate? The last M is meeting people. The key to getting hired faster here, it is really meeting people. That means it's networking. Oftentimes, the common mistakes job seekers make is just applying for jobs online. The truth is, the chances of getting an interview is very slim by just applying online. It's only about 2% chance. But when you actually network and go put yourself out there to meet people, you are 5 times more likely to get an offer. And if you can get people to endorse you, to refer you for opportunities, you essentially accelerate the interview process. This is what I call you go through the back door, right? Instead of just applying online, you actually go find out the people who work there, the hiring manager, the recruiter. You get to know them so that you can actually move faster. I'll give you a recent example of a client of mine of how he leveraged this. So he comes from a digital marketing background at a more boutique digital marketing agency, working with small businesses. And he approached me telling me that he wants to now work for a bigger corporation, a big company where he can really grow and progress his career. Now, the fact that because he comes from a smaller agency and working small businesses, it is harder to break in. So what we did, obviously, is that we came up with his messaging, his marketing plan, and we're working mindset. But one of the key things that really differentiated him, I got him to do, is really meeting people. And because he did all that work, I actually referred him to people in my network as well to endorse him for a job opportunity at a top tech company. And the person I introduced him to eventually then introduced him to the hiring manager that got him the interview opportunity. But beyond that, I actually challenged him to talk to at least 10 people at each of his targeted company to really understand the business, the culture, the structure of the teams, the day-to-day responsibilities of the role. What is it like working there, working with the people, so that he really understands, marketing for a bigger corporation. And that preparation gave him a competitive edge when he went to the interview stage. He basically accelerated the whole interview process and got to the case study interview and also eventually getting the offer. So I hope this gives you some perspective on these are the 4 key pillars to getting hired faster. You got to work on yourself, work on your messaging, you got to work on your marketing, and meeting people. So here's a perspective to think. Really think about like a marketer. Right? Think yourself as a product. What are the benefits of buying you? Or from an employer's perspective, why should they hire you? What are the key benefits of hiring you? So oftentimes people will highlight what I call their strengths, which is really their features of what they're good at. However, if you can really connect the dots of the fact that you are great in analytical skills, what does that mean? This could mean that you're able to really identify the problem, the root cause of the problem, or identify solutions faster. So how do you differentiate as high potential talent? I'm going to share with you the 5 Ps from my experience as a recruiter. Tons of companies throughout the years, and I've really learned what it takes to stand out, especially my time when I worked as a recruiter at Google, where I was tasked to double their workforce in a year. They basically wanted me to hire the top 2% of the people in the market. I also learned how to really evaluate talent from my time when I was working as a recruitment manager at the one of the top business schools, MBA executive MBA program, where I've met with tons of people as well. So here are the 5 Ps. The first is to progression. What this means is that you want to showcase that how you've progressed in your career, whether you've taken on more responsibilities or that you've learned a new area of business or gained new product knowledge or that you've developed a new area of expertise, that you've made progression, that you've grown as an individual. You want to be able to highlight that, whether it's in your resume or when you talk about it in an interview. The second P is performance. So this is all about the results. Whether you are delivering what's expected and whether you are also identified as a high performer. Because when you think about it from an employer's perspective, they obviously want to hire people who are great at what they do, who can really get the results and who could really deliver at the end of the day. And so it's important that, to be able to highlight if you have been recognized for your achievements, for your performance, you want to talk about that, whether you were like the top 1% or top 5% of employees in your workplace. The third P is promotions. Right? When employers see that you have been promoted, it really showcases, demonstrated that you have a potential and that you have taken on more responsibilities, bigger scope of work as well. Now, I know when I worked at Google, something I really learned that what they really liked was that they loved the fact when people had what they call an accelerated career path. So meaning, for example, if a traditional path would go from a account manager to account executive is 3 years, but they did it in a year and a half, I would highlight that, promoted from account manager to account executive within 1.5 years. The average path is about 3 years. So you want to give context that you're able to get there faster. The fourth P is coming across as polished, right? So this means coming across as a strong communicator, that you are clear, articulate, and concise. The last P is being professional, right? Professional in a sense of showcasing that you are respectful, that you understand the workplace culture and how to treat people with respect as well. So these are the 5 Ps on how you can differentiate as high potential talent. Now, I'm going to give you more details on really how do you stand out as the ideal candidate to hire, like to get an offer. Okay. So here are some of the key things that I've seen that really works and the feedback that I have received from hiring managers of what makes the candidate stand out. Number 1 is to be well prepared. Meaning not just being prepared for the interview of the answers of talking about your experience, but being well prepared and really understanding the overall role, the company, the business, where you really have done your due diligence and talked to enough people so that when you meet with the hiring manager, you can have a more in-depth and meaningful conversation. And they can just tell that you really want this job as well. Second, is to showcase you understand the roles, responsibilities, and expectations. So this is more than just reading the job posting. This is actually like talking to people who have done this job, or you can reach out to people like on LinkedIn or finding out, from the company that you're targeting that you actually have an informational interview with them so that you really understand the data rate responsibilities and what it takes. See, the third is going back to add on to that is knowing what it takes to be successful in the job, right? Not only understanding, okay, what do you need to do, but what do you really need to do to thrive and to perform and for them to see you that you are a high performer with high potential? Like what is critical to success? Is it the fact that you need to be able to design a amazing website, for example, or create a strong marketing campaign? Like, what is it that they're really looking for to be successful? Fourth is that you want to demonstrate that you have the relevant knowledge, skills, and experience. Okay, so typically knowledge is a particular area, let's say a knowledge in e-commerce, right? Or skills in marketing planning, project management, experience within the functional area that they're looking for, which is like, say, marketing. And you want to really highlight about those skills, experience, and knowledge. Because at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is that you want to connect the dots. So the next one is you want to provide strong evidence of support. So this is what I call the proof, right? Giving them relevant examples that you've actually done something like this to give them comfort. Know how you're going to approach a particular problem or a project when they hire you. Is connecting the dots of how you're able to add value to the new role. So this is key. I always talk about this with my clients one-on-one when we do a lot of interview prep. The whole concept of connecting the dots. In order to do that, you really need to understand the job itself in terms of scope of the role and what their expectations are in order to connect the dots. So what would be an example to really connect the dots? As an example, when I worked when I was interviewing for the recruiter job at Google, right? There are tons of recruiters out there. Like, how do you really stand out? The way to connect the dots is the fact that I said, well, I've worked at one of the top business schools in the world where I have interviewed some of the top people in the industry and but more importantly is having that keen eye for high-performing, high-potential talent. So what that means to connect the dots is that I'm able to help the employer, Google here, to really find the best of the best talent for them. Okay, so that's connecting the dots. So you're giving them comfort and confidence that you can help them find the top candidates. Okay, so let's move on. Now that we talked about how to differentiate, I'm now going to move on into more tactical stuff in terms of the resumes, networking, and interviews. So I'm going to start with highlighting first the common resume mistakes. And you've probably heard of some of these already, but these are the things that I often see as a recruiter. And I have seen over 20,000 resumes as a recruiter, like over a decade of my experience. And these are some of the common ones that always pop up. History document. People just literally just list out all the things that they've done throughout their entire life or career, right? It doesn't really have that marketing in terms of a theme or a message or keywords that really highlight what makes them unique, right? It's more just a history of things, chronological order of things that they've done. The second is only including responsibilities. What have you done? Now, when you think about it as a recruiter, when we're recruiting for a particular role, let's say a marketing manager, typically the responsibilities, the baseline responsibilities would be similar, right? And so it's something that we can find in a job posting, right? It doesn't really give the so what in terms of how you've added value, of what you've done differently, how you made a difference, or what you've actually accomplished during your time, or how you got good results for the company. They make that wow factor. And this is very common, I would say most, and you can ask yourself, you look at your resume, do you have statements that say responsible for this, did this, or helped this? If that's the case, it's time to really update your resume to make it more like that wow factor that really markets you. The third mistake is that it's not targeted or tailored to the job. Maybe read the job posting carefully. There could be like minor tweaks of how things may be different in terms of what they are looking for. So it could be as simple as, one job really requires someone with more experience in in a particular area, like say analytical skills, like really strong analytical skills is what's required. So we really want to highlight that. So it gives really that key theme or message as well. Passive tone of voice. So meaning it's less about highlighting how you've demonstrated your leadership skills or being proactive or taking initiative. It's really just listing it's like that responsibilities. Too long, very common that I see. Either it's more than 2 pages. I really recommend a resume no more than 2 pages. Ideally, if you have less than that 5-year experience, if you're more junior, that 1-page resume, it's totally enough as well. Even though if you have like 20 years of experience, 2-page resume is more than enough. And this is the key here, is being very concise with your content. The last piece here is grammar or spelling mistakes. This is like something that people have. One of the common one I can tell you that I see all the time that people make is the word lead. Lead a team. The past tense for lead is led. Led. This is one of the most common spelling mistake that I see. That were from the that have already finished or from the past. You always want to use past tense instead of present tense. All right, so let's move on now in terms of some advice here for you in terms of the resume is that you want to make your resume a marketing document because it is a marketing tool to help you get interviews, to get calls from recruiters. It's not just a history document. So you want to make your resume very employer focused and tailored to their needs and hiring criteria. And the best way to do this is not only looking at the job posting, but also talking to people who are in that role of like, what does it take to succeed and what does a hiring manager really look for? So here are some tips on how to create a marketable resume. I have my formula called the RARE resume formula. The R stands for relevant keywords. So you really want to use relevant keywords for your targeted role. So I'll use an example here. Like really you can brainstorm like a cloud of keywords in your field of expertise. I'm going to continue to use an example maybe around in sales here, for example. So in sales, because that's the one I'm recruiting for right now, is let's say B2B sales versus B2C sales. Account management, business development, client relationship management, negotiation. These are some keywords that you want to consider really highlighting in your resume. The next is the A, which is accomplishments oriented. So remember what I told you, like a lot of times people make it responsibility based. A way to really change that is to make it more accomplishments oriented. So for example, if you're in sales, you really want to quantify your successes. So in the sales industry, it is so critical to highlight their quota achievements. Really important to a lot of times with employers is they want to see candidates who've actually achieved and exceeded their quota over like 100%. So if you are in a role, whether in other roles, it doesn't have to, if you don't have numbers, that's okay. You can give some context on, for example, if you were the first ever to do this or that nice for this, like that's an accomplishment that you can highlight. The next is the R, is results oriented. This is really giving that metrics of success or how you got added value to the employer. So really think back about like, what are your performance metrics? Like how does your boss or manager evaluate your performance? And so highlighting that whether you had received, let's say, an excellent review or you're recognized for being a top performer or the fact that you helped, generate X million of dollars in sales or that you created a new market. Those are the results that you want to highlight. Because by highlighting these, it makes it a lot more interesting when it comes to interview stage that when the recruiter or the hiring manager, they're like, oh, tell me how you went about generating $10 million or how did you go about creating a new market? That becomes a great conversation starter. The last is the E. You want to make it easy to screen. Right? Oftentimes recruiters, they get tons of resumes on a daily basis. And really, for them to look at the resume before they look even further. So you want to make it easy to screen by having lots of white space, that it's very clean. You use like good bullets as well to make it easy for them to go through. You want to align all your dates, bold all, like, let's say the job titles or the companies that you worked on. You want to make it so easy that it's easy, what I call like that there's that segmentation from, let's say, differentiating your education section to your experience section. At the end of the day, think of a brochure that you've seen or a flyer. Like, how do they go about that marketing document? Okay, so now that we talked about the resume, let's move on to talk about the common networking mistakes that people make. I have found that networking is one of the most common fears that job seekers face. And I think it's got to do with the fact that, feeling that you got to put yourself out there, and the fact that you need to ask for help. People feel that they, aren't comfortable with that. So here's some of the mistakes that I often see. Number one, asking for favors without building trust or rapport. So think about this, is that if you are looking to connect with someone, let's say if I introduce you to someone in my network, and the first thing you do before getting to know them or getting on a call is that you ask them to introduce you their CEO of the company or their hiring manager. Know you yet. And so why would they be willing to put the reputation on the line to make that introduction? Right? So it is so critical that you take the time to get to know them and feel that they like you and trust you and they want to help you before you asking for any favors. And this goes a long way. And this is why it's so important that when it comes to networking is that ideally you want to start networking before you even start your job search. Second is being desperate. So I get it. When you are either looking or unemployed, there's that feeling of fear and being desperate. But when you have that desperate energy, people can feel that. And you don't come across as confident or energetic, where people feel like that you are excited about your future opportunity. So a big part of this is actually working on your mindset first. Until you need to network. So I mentioned that earlier, that if you're just starting out, you really need to take the time to build that. Or if not, if there are people who really believe in you and want to help you endorse you, that can go a long way as well. So I'll give you an example. Like, I actually, as a career coach, I work with a lot of clients one-on-one. And one of the things I always tell them is that in order for me to make an introduction, what's important for me is that I want to make sure that they are clear on what they are looking for. They have a very compelling story and key message, and they've updated all their marketing documents. That means that they've done all the prep work before they put themselves out there. Because when you have that work done, your message is a lot more compelling and a lot more consistent, and you're going to come across a lot more confident. As a result, you're more likely to get helped. Like, people will be willing to refer you as well. The fourth is not respecting people's time. So this could be showing up on a call or a meeting late, or canceling the meeting with little notice. I have heard this from people in my network when I introduce people as well. It is so important when you are the job seeker that you want to make it as convenient and easy as possible for the person you're asking for their time. Right? You want to be respectful of their time. So when you actually want to meet with them, it's actually better that you call them or you give them an advance notice as well of what you like to cover. If you ask for 30 minutes, you want to keep it to within that 30 minutes, unless they tell you that they have that extra time. Not being specific. So this means lacking clarity on what you are actually looking for. Okay. And I hear this a lot from hiring managers or people who I've introduced to. It is so important to have clarity on your ideal role or the ideal responsibilities or ideal company. Because, and this is actually a technique, is that when you are specific enough, it actually helps create an image for them to think about a person or opportunity they can refer you to. So when you are not specific by saying that, oh, I'm open to anything, I'm open to any type of opportunities that you can think of that's good for me, it's not going to work, especially for a recruiter, right? Oftentimes as a recruiter, I'll get people for saying like, oh, I'm looking for opportunities. Can you keep me in mind? Or can you introduce to me people in the network? It's not specific enough, and I'm not going to be able to remember this person. Not meeting enough people. I would say this is very common because most of the time people would just be applying online. So when you don't meet enough people, that means not enough people actually know that you're looking or that you're available or what you have to offer. I would say on average, if you're actively job seeking, you should be talking to someone, at least one person a day, right? So that's like 7 people a week that you should be talking to. Lack of follow-up. Right? Sometimes, you meet one person and there's not that follow-up, and you never know. Like, I'll give you an example actually by following up how it can actually turn into an opportunity. Oftentimes I see is that they have this one meeting, they're like, oh, they can't help me, therefore I'm not going to meet with them. Now that could be the case. I mean, at the end of the day, you still want to follow up by like having a thank you note of thanking for their time and advice. But I'll give you an example. Like, I had a client last year. She completed her executive MBA at one of the top MBA schools. She's at the executive level, like a VP of marketing and communications. And she did a really good job actually following up. She met the CEO of one of the top PR agencies in the industry. And at that time, they didn't have anything open. Like, they were going through some organizational changes. Plus, in the summer, hiring tends to be a little slower as well. So she stayed in touch with the CEO, after a few months, like after the summer, like in September, she followed up with them again through just like a casual like coffee chat. And then literally like within like a month later, a role open, like a senior role open that was totally tailored to her specific strengths and interests at a VP level role. Right. So just following up or staying in touch with people can go a long way because you never know what may be available. And in order for them to really think about you for those opportunities, obviously going back to is that they need to be clear on your unique value offering and your unique strengths. And the last but not least is forgetting to say thank you. Right? And it's just showing your appreciation can go a long way. That example that I share with you, the client that I worked with who want to go from the digital boutique agency to a big company, he met with so many people, and he always followed up with a thank you note email. And some of them, he actually wrote a thank you card, like a handwritten card, and mail it to them to their office. And the people really appreciate it. And he even just really thanking for their time, gave them like a simple, like a small, like a Starbucks gift card, like, coffee on me on your next visit. It's just something just to really showcase your appreciation if they really help you, to give you some like good insights or did you a favor to help you move forward in your job search. All right. So a common question I always get is, how do I find the right people to network with? But there's so many people out there. How do I really find the right people? The first step is you really need to determine the criteria of the people you want to meet, right? By understanding the type of people you want to meet, that helps you stay focused and to make the most of your networking meetings. So let me give you some suggestions on the criteria. People who are work at your target companies, right? So for you to get inside information of what it's like working there. People who are in your profession or your ideal role, right? To really understand the day-to-day responsibilities and what the career path is like. People who you admire and want to learn from. So this could be like a mentor or someone more senior that you can get advice on, or people who have actually made that significant career change or industry change or moved abroad that you really want to get some insights on how they did it. People who are involved with recruiting and hiring. So these are people like the recruiters or the hiring managers who have insights on what roles are open and what they're really looking for. Typically, I advise my clients that before you meet with what I call the hiring managers or recruiters, you want to meet with what I call the first level of people who actually are in the job or who work at the target company, so that it give you more inside information first. Because once you talk to a recruiter or hiring manager, you need to be in the mode of really pitching yourself or promoting yourself, or you got to sell yourself more. Whereas the other people, you can have more a conversation to really learn more about the day-to-day responsibilities and the company or business. People who are well connected, right? People who are networkers or are connected to different people in different industries, or who just know a lot of people, essentially. But because I'm a recruiter, but I also love networking or enjoy networking as well, I'm connected to a lot of people, and hence why oftentimes I'm able to make connections to people in my network with the people I work with. People who are decision makers and influencers. So these could be people like at the VP level and up. And this can go a long way. If they endorse you, the likelihood of you getting an interview is really, really high. So I'll use an example. An example would be, even when I worked at Google, like when the managing director of the company referred me someone in his network, I would follow up with that person and set up an interview time. So that really accelerated that process already. Right? It doesn't necessarily have to just be at that executive level or VP level and above, but at least these people who already have credibility in their industry are good at what they do, or people really respect and admire them. One is people who enjoy meeting and helping people. Right? You can tell it when you actually go look on someone's LinkedIn profile. You can get a sense just by looking at the profile in terms of their bio, how it's written, whether they actually are warm and inviting, actually want to meet with people. Oftentimes when you get that vibe that they want to meet or help people, you get the sense that they would be willing to have a conversation with you as well. Okay, so that's a criteria that you can set of the people you want to network with. So here's what I'm going to share with you is how do you actually leverage LinkedIn to find the right people? Okay, so you can first brainstorm on like people in your own network, which is like the warm network. But if you need to reach out to what I call the cold network, is that you want to leverage a tool, very powerful tool like LinkedIn. Is that first is you want to find people at your targeted roles, organizations, and industries. So you can actually filter your search by looking at the right job titles, filtering the company and industries. You can search by keywords, job titles, companies, industry, and location, right? This will help you narrow down your search. You can research on people's career paths to gain insights. Right? So for example, like oftentimes I work with a lot of MBA grads and they want to change career paths. I once had a client last year who was in a finance career path for finance and strategy, and he really wanted to move into CPG marketing, which is a big change as well. And so a big part of what he did was actually understanding like what does it take to actually make that jump, or how do people move into CPG marketing. Joining groups to find recruiters. A lot of times experienced recruiters are part of a lot of groups as well, so that's a great way to network with them. Following companies to find people who work there, right? When you follow companies, oftentimes it will list people who work there, either in your first, second, or third level network. Okay, so before I move into the interviews phase, one thing I really want to challenge you on when you think about networking, because it's actually such an important component to getting hired faster, is that you really need to have what I call your list of people to connect with. So my challenge to you is put together a list of at least 100 people that you want to reach out to, okay? I know that may seem a lot, but here's the reality. Typically, only about 20 to 30% of the people will reply back to you. So that means out of that 100 people, probably only 20 or 30 people will actually respond. And out of that, probably less than half of the people are willing to meet with you. 10 to 15 people. Okay, so you're really only about 10 to 15 people who are willing to actually have a conversation with you. And then out of that, probably only 40% of the people who are willing to or able to actually help you move forward. So that's less than half a dozen people there. Okay, so part of it, it is a bit of a numbers game. The more people you connect to, but you also want to connect the right people to really accelerate that search. And I have found, my experience as a recruiter, in order for me to even hire one person for an employer, I actually need to reach out to at least 100 people to find the one, right? When I reach out to 100 people, less than half of people will respond back to me interested in an opportunity. And out of that, at the end of the day, I would only present like the best 5 to an employer for them to choose from, for them to actually hire one. So it's the same similar concept, essentially, when you think about it, is you want to build your funnel, right, of people to network with that will eventually get you more interviews and more offers. Okay, so let's move into the common interview mistakes that actually lead to a rejection. This is from my experience, what I've seen having worked at Google, and also the last several years as a recruiter on the agency side, where I've recruited a variety of companies in financial services, pharmaceutical, etc. So these are what I call the 4 C's that can lead you to a rejection. The first is the lack of connection. So lack of really building that rapport, that trust, that chemistry with the interviewer, right? It's just that you want to have you want to avoid that awkward moments, like just be able to really have that connection with them. The second is the lack of confidence, right? Because the lack of confidence is assigned to the employers, whether you are confident also in your abilities to do the job. So this could be how you come across in your energy, your tone, the way you talk about your experience would make a huge difference. Lack of clear communication, right? So this is lack of being concise, being compelling. Oftentimes, it's so normal when you get nervous in interviews that you may ramble and go on and on and on and on. And so that lack of clear communication is actually so critical. And when you talk to employers, communication skills, especially verbal communication skills, is one of the most important skill sets that employers look for. Because in any job, you always need to get your point across. The last C is lack of compelling reasons or examples. So this is what I call going back to your proof, your evidence of support, right? You want to avoid the fluff, right? Just saying, oh, I have XYZ experience in this. You actually want to give examples of how you demonstrate XYZ skill or experience, right? It's the proof. So when you think about it, if you can have better connection, better confidence, better clear communication, better compelling reason examples, that's what's really going to help you differentiate and get hired faster. So moving forward, I want to share with you what you can do to prepare for your interview. Okay. This is a pretty comprehensive list of things that you can do to prepare to really differentiate and stand out from your competition. The first is to know the industry. Really understand what are the trends, challenges, and opportunities. Okay, you can find out this through doing a search online, talking to people, read any industry reports. You'll learn a lot about that. This is especially important if you are considering to make an industry change. Okay, for example, if you want to go from, say, telecommunications to finance, you want to understand what are some of the changes or how things have evolved in like the banking industry and what they're really looking for, so that you can really talk about that. One of the things I like to talk about, the homework that I give my clients to do is think about 10 interesting sound bites of trends, challenges, opportunities that you can talk about in an interview or in a networking setting, just to showcase that you've done your research. The second is to know the company and culture. A big part of getting an offer is that they want to know that you are a good fit, a good culture fit. And so this is really understanding their values, their vision, the mission. What is it like to work there? What are the people like? To really understand that, right? So I'll give you an example. Like when I worked at Google, one of the things that they talk about is the googliness factor, which is the fit, the culture fit. So some of the qualities that they will look for are people who are innovative, entrepreneurial, who takes initiatives, who is proactive, who is resourceful, results oriented, ideas. Those are those qualities that they really look for that are a good fit for the company. Knowing the products, services, and customers. This is especially important for those who are in sales, marketing roles, or in customer service roles where you are required to talk to customers or you need to sell the products or solutions. It's so important to understand that. So for the client that I was telling you who wanted to go into the marketing at this telco company, for a marketing role, I actually told him, like, go visit the different retail stores to learn about the products, to learn about like the cell phone plans. How is it different from store to store so that you can actually talk about it when you're in the interview. The fourth is to know the role. Understand the role. What are the core knowledge, skills, and experience required? What examples prove you have the qualifications? Right, so you really want to understand this. Like, this is through when you talk to the recruiter or reading a job posting or even asking the hiring manager, like, what is critical to success here, so that you can give some good examples to showcase that you've done that. Okay, so you want to essentially minimize their concerns and you want to maximize their confidence in your abilities. The fifth is to know the interviewers, right? Different interviewers have different interview style, different personality, different expectations. I always recommend, like, to ask the recruiter or whoever you're dealing with, like, who am I interviewing with? And from there, see if you can actually do some homework by going on LinkedIn to find a little bit more about their background, their experience, where have they worked at. You can also get a sense of their personality by how they write. Are they more like a numbers person or more like a relationship person? That gives you a sense on how you're going to approach your conversation with them. 6, know your whys. Your why messages are it's an indicator of your motivation, right? So you're going to get questions around, like, why this company, why this role, why you. They may ask it differently, but in essence, they're really trying to understand your motivation. Like, what piques your interest in working here? What is it about this role that attracts you? Why do you believe you are the best candidate to hire? Right? So you really want to have like 3 compelling reasons to convince them of why, and to showcase that you're really clear about them as well. 7 is to know your story and messages. Right? So at the end of the day is that you want to have a very compelling story of your, what I call your glowing introduction, AKA your elevator pitch. You want to master your glowing introduction because that's what's really going to set the stage of their impression about you and what you have to offer. You want to demonstrate your process in solving problems. Oftentimes, any job you go into, there are problems to solve, or there are issues that you need to deal with. Right? You want to showcase how you've dealt with similar situations in the past to showcase that you know how you're going to approach this. So that's a very pretty comprehensive list of things that you want to do. And when you think about it, there's a lot of work that you need to do. Oftentimes, I would say is that most people just focused on their story and messages, and they neglect all the other things in terms of researching all the external stuff, in terms of the business, the company, the role, the interviewers. That's actually how you're really going to stand out, because that's the extra, like, by going above and beyond to really differentiate. And when you think about that, when you actually do that, you're able to incorporate some of that information in your interview, and that's how you're really going to impress the interviewers. So here are some 6 common examples that you want to think about, prepare for an interview. First is conflict management and resolution. Second, leadership. Third, communication. Fourth, teamwork. Fifth, problem solving. And 6, time management. These are just some examples, right? Depending on your area of profession, they could be different as well. But I can guarantee you, in any type of interviews, there's always going to be questions around how did you resolve something, right? How did you resolve this conflict? How did you resolve this problem? How did you get your team or colleagues or executives to buy into your idea? How did you communicate your thoughts? Looking for something like that. Right. So you can even map out. I always get my clients to map out, okay, based on what you're targeting, what's critical to success. Right. So last year, I helped a client to get into a top bank for a director level role in marketing. And when we mapped it out, like it was a very specific as marketing role for the credit card department. And she was able to get some inside information because her former boss worked there. But we really mapped out the specific things, like in terms of, for example, like having strong analytics type of experience, having strong even credit card knowledge, um, an experience with actually creating a campaign, experience with improving the whole customer experience. And those things out, we were then able to, okay, think about, well, what are some relevant examples that she's done in the past that will hit those points of what the employer is looking for. Okay, so you can do this exercise when you are preparing for your interviews of understanding what they're looking for, that you can tailor their messages to their needs. So to ace your interview, it's all about the delivery. You want to speak with assertiveness, confidence, and enthusiasm. Right? What this means is that you want to be firm, you want to showcase that you believe in yourself, and you want to showcase that you are excited about the opportunity. Oftentimes, and I remember when I was recruiting for Google, the common feedback I heard from hiring managers, because I was hired for salespeople, is that they said they lack the fire in them, or that they lack the hunger in them, meaning it's just really that enthusiasm or passion that they really want this job, or they believe that they have what it takes. Right? It's all about that energy of how you choose to show up in your interview, and whether you believe that you have what it takes. 93% of your message impact is based on your body language and tone of voice. It's how you say what you want to say that matters. Right? So this all goes back in terms of your facial expressions, your eye contact, your smile, your hand gestures, your posture. That all gives an impression of how the interviewers see you. So as much as you also want to work on your content of your interviews, you need to also really focus on the delivery, which is where you want to have what I call like practice, the mock interviews with a friend, with a coach, whoever it is, where they can really give you feedback on how you are coming across and what's the vibe or energy that you're given. Oftentimes, I mean, if you are getting interviews, meaning that you're already marketable enough from your resume or LinkedIn profile, but you're not getting offers, is that it could be something that you are giving off that you're not aware of. And you just need to make those simple tweaks that would make a huge difference. I know this because I've worked with a lot of clients in the past, and especially last summer, people who are already getting interviews and need to only have like 1 to 3 interview coaching sessions that will get them a job offer. So it could be simple things like tweaking their tone of voice, having more a deeper tone of voice so that they can project further. Or the fact that in terms of getting their message more concise, or having more structure in their messaging. Right? Be able to really have the story of the context and give specific steps and having a strong conclusion. Those little things that I work on with clients and make those tweaks that make you more polished and make you stand out. So to wrap it up, own your greatness. Stand out to get hired. So what this means is really believe in yourself. Just own your greatness of what you're really good at, and show up with confidence. That's how you're really going to get hired. Okay, so here's the wrap up of my training now. So I'm going to give you a personal challenge. I'm assuming that you're here because you are looking to get a job in the next 90 days or ASAP. So here are some things that I want to challenge you to do in the next few weeks. First is to identify one specific thing you can do to improve on your mindset, marketing, messaging, and meeting people. Okay? Identify just one thing for each area that can make a significant difference in helping you move forward. Second, update your resume with more accomplishments and results, such as highlight your responsibilities. Highlight more of these your unique successes that will give them the wow factor. Okay. If you aren't sure, ask feedback from your managers or your colleagues of how you've added value. So that will help you understand of the difference that you've made. Oftentimes, I'll tell you, people I've worked with, they'll think about the work that they've done is not that significant or it didn't matter. Hence, they don't see it as an accomplishment or result. But when you really think of it from the standpoint of how you have been of service or how you've contributed, those are the unique things that you've done. It's because of you that made the difference. Third, research and brainstorm a list of 100 people you want to network with. Okay, research it on LinkedIn, brainstorm the people you know who may know other people, just map it all out so that you can see the list of people that you're going to connect with. And from there, I want you to come up with a game plan, right? Because you're not going to reach out to all 100 people at once. That's just too much work here. Set a goal like every week, I'm going to reach out to 10 people. And you can add on more people if you want, once you got the hang of it, once you feel more comfortable with networking. Fourth, identify 5 to 7 relevant examples that you can use in an interview. So start thinking about your stories, those examples that will pique the employer interest. Right? So think of those examples related to conflict, problem solving, whatever it is that's important to your target profession. Okay, remember to take action. Nothing is going to work if you don't do the work. You really have to put the effort into it, and you have to believe in yourself to really see the results. Challenge to you. Okay, so just to wrap up, if you want to learn more and want to improve your marketability, you can visit my website on www.mymarketability.com. For those who are new to My Marketability, here's a summary of what we do. Essentially, we are a career coaching company where we specialize in helping job seekers to stand out and get hired faster. We offer services in one-on-one career and business coaching. The business meaning to help people who want to transition from corporate to entrepreneurship. Interview coaching, so really hone into just the interview practice and strategy and messaging. Writing service, where we help you write your resume, cover letter, and LinkedIn profile. Online job search training, so online programs and courses, and the group career coaching. So because it's the new year, I'm offering a special new year promo that I want to share with you today. If you are really serious about your job search and you want to get that competitive edge and accelerate your job search, here's what I would like to help you to do. I want to help you accelerate your job search success and get hired within 90 days. It is certainly possible if you have a plan and you are dedicated and focused. So I'm offering my most popular service combined into one. So this includes a one-on-one coaching, plus interview preparation, plus writing service. These are all individual services that I offer, but I'm combining it all in one so that we can accelerate your success. So this is what you get in this New Year promo, is that you get 4 coaching sessions with a focused agenda. The value of $1,500 is that the first session where we cover a strategy session and discovery of your personal brand and key messages. This is where I really go through your key experiences, understand your skills and themes, and we'll record this session so that we can help you write out your marketing documents as well. So this is usually about an hour and a half long session. And the second session would be a job search strategy and networking game plan. So this is where we come up with a plan of how you're going to go about tackling your job search. Who are the people that you're going to connect with? What are your target companies and industries? The third session is where we do an interview strategy and plan. So this is where we help you get interview ready and confident. Here we really go through everything from all your key examples, key messages, keywords, all in detail. And the last but not least is a mock interview session. So as if you're going for a real interview, we're going to go through an interview practice where I'm going to be the recruiter and I'm going to ask you all the questions that you have prepared for. Besides the one-on-one coaching sessions, you're also going to get 4 professionally written marketing documents that will save you time and get you more interviews. This is a value of $1,300. So what this means is that you're going to get a professional resume writer to write your resume, your cover letter, LinkedIn profile, and your elevator pitch. This also includes 2 rounds of edits and proofread by an editor. Okay, so essentially you're going to get 3 people, like me as a recruiter, in terms of as a strategist of how we're going to strategize your content, and the writer to actually write out everything about you to make you marketable and amazing, and someone at the end who's going to proofread all the documents to make sure it's the grammar and spell check, everything is perfect there. You're also going to get access to 6 online courses that has 12 hours of training content and exercises. These are downloadable worksheets, frameworks, videos, presentations, and audios. The value of this is $797. Self-discovery course, the personal branding course, resumes, LinkedIn, networking, and interviews. Essentially, these courses complement our one-on-one coaching sessions, because in here I go more in depth of what you've been learning now already, but more in depth in terms of frameworks, strategies, templates, and tips on each category or each topic that will help you accelerate your job search success. In addition, you're going to get 60 days of unlimited email support. So you can send me emails to review anything or questions that you may have. I'll support you for 2 months there. And the value of that is $500. So in summary, you get 4 coaching sessions, 4 professionally written marketing documents, 6 online courses, and 60 days of unlimited email support. The value of all this, if you were to get it individually, is $4,097. However, with my New Year promo, I am offering it at $2,500 plus tax. Okay, so that's a huge saving there. And this is a great way to help you kickstart your job search and to accelerate your success. So if you're serious about this, I invite you to join me. I'm also going to offer a fast action bonus for those who are going to sign up in the next 48 hours. You will get 1 additional coaching session, which is the value of $500, where we will focus on developing your 90-day plan to thrive in your new job. So essentially, once you get the job, how to ensure that you are going to succeed and thrive. You're going to work with my associate coach to come up with that game plan. So for more info and to sign up, please go to www.mymarketability.com/NY-promo. Okay. If you have any questions, let me know. I will also be sending out a follow-up email with all the details as well. All right, thank you very much for your time. And now I'm going to open the floor up to Q&A. I'm going to get back into my live camera mode. Okay. All right, so thank you so much for all those who are here. I'm just going to go into the live mode here to see if anyone has any questions to submit. I just need to move into the chat room here to see if I see anything. Any questions? I'm not seeing it pop up here. I think I need to go into my... Okay, so I see it on my other computer here of questions that I've listed out. Great, good. Okay, so I'm just going to go down the questions here. So the first question is, what are your thoughts about a candidate having multiple resumes? Example, 1 for each employer or position applied to. That's a great question. So I think it's basically whether you should have multiple resumes for 1 employer. So I think it depends. If it's similar area, let's say if it's within marketing, you can technically have 1 resume. Because the thing is, if you have too many different version resumes, the employer is going to get confused. right? Because how it works is essentially they're going to store it in the ATS, applicant tracking system, and they're just going to pull out the most updated version of the resume. So ideally, I would say is having like one in this case, unless you are like, let's say applying to, let's say marketing and finance, then you maybe want something different. What's really important though, if you're going to have multiple versions of resumes to the same employer, you want to make sure there is no discrepancy. So meaning you want to have the correct dates, the correct numbers. You don't want to have any discrepancy, okay? Because I know when I worked at Google, it's like a big no-no. If there's any discrepancy from even the matching dates from your LinkedIn profile to resume, it's considered a red flag, and they really have to probe further. Albert sent a question here. Should I send a follow-up email if I applied for a role with a recruiter by sending a cover letter, resume, and they haven't responded? So basically, should I follow up with the recruiter if I've already applied for a job? So if you actually have the contact information of the recruiter, it's always good to follow up. Okay. If they haven't responded, give them that week and follow up again. Either sometimes, honestly, they may just be overwhelmed with emails and they may have just missed your email. The thing is, here's the truth, okay, is that not that the recruiters don't want to be responsive, because I know I often hear that, but I think sometimes is that because the volume of hiring, they may not be able to respond all at once. And I mean, I guess is that if you are really the ideal candidate or the right fit, that they see their fit, that they will respond a lot sooner. But I'll tell you, it doesn't hurt to follow up, okay? Whether it's the recruiter or the hiring manager. I'll say the question is there anything in my advice that would differentiate for non-profit fields? So I have worked with a lot of people in the nonprofit sector. In terms of differentiation, I mean, a lot of times I think nonprofit, I think is that because they're nonprofit, depending on the roles you're in, I would say, but a lot of times the people I've worked with in nonprofits, either they have been in a fundraising role or they're really looking for people who are very resourceful and creative as well. But what I have found with nonprofit is so you really have to go talk to the right people to help you uncover those opportunities, because I don't find them often posted online as much. So I think what's important is to actually, you have to do more networking to find those opportunities there. Someone asked, will I be sharing the presentation deck after the session? No, I won't, but I will be sharing the recording of this training. When cold messaging a potential contact on LinkedIn, that you follow to draft your message? Good question. Yes. So actually in my networking course, and I tell all my clients this, is that you always want to have what I call a baseline template for your outreach message to your warm contacts, cold contacts, recruiters, hiring managers. Have a baseline template that you can use so that it will help increase your efficiency to reach out to more people, right? And you can make tweaks along the way, right? So for example, like your template would be, that I'm interested in contacting you because X, Y, Z. You can have like a personal reason, but you can at least you start off that line first. I love templates because I find that it really increases your efficiency and you just make tweaks there. Do I have a promotion for nonprofit workers? Not particularly just for nonprofit. It would be the promo that I'm doing now for any people in any industry, whether you're a student, new grad, or fit. How do you usually explain the gap months from your last job? The gap months from your last job. So if you have a gap in your work history, that's totally okay. I think anything above a year is sometimes like a bit of a concern, but these days I'll tell you, like, because there's been so many layoffs happening over the years, employers do understand. In terms of how do you explain it? I mean, honestly, it's being honest. Like if you were laid off, like you let the employer know that you were laid off because of restructuring. As you want to talk about is, well, what did you do during this time, during this gap? Did you take some time off to take care of family members, or did you take time off to really figure out what you want to do? Just by showcasing that you've actually tried to do something to improve your well-being or improve your skill set. Those are the things that you want to highlight. A client before who had like a 10-year gap. Like she took 10 years off to be a stay-at-home mom. And, that all we had to do was add in a career note saying, took a career break to take care of kids. And she decided to go back to law school, become a lawyer afterwards, and she was able to find something. So you just have to add a career note to explain it. How valuable are the volunteer experiences on your resume? I would say they're valuable, right? I mean, obviously this goes back to how relevant they are and how recent they are as well. But if you are like a new grad or someone with junior experience, volunteer experience is great. It's a great way to showcase that you're involved in the community, how you stay connected, demonstrating communication skills and leadership skills as well. Or especially if you are also looking to work with that particular cause or industry, it's great to highlight that. Giordano asked me, thank you. Am I open to having initial conversation before having people sign up for my 48-hour promo? Absolutely. You can book a consultation call just by going to my website to book a call. I'm happy to have a consultation call with you. I do have some time tomorrow as well. Okay. Okay, so another question is, what do I think of cover letters? From my perspective as a recruiter, is it always good to submit cover letters? You know what? It really depends. I would say that from my experience as a recruiter, I would say the first thing I look at is really the resume. The cover letter, what's good is that it boils down to like you and another candidate that are really close and the employer wants to hire. Help differentiate you by showcasing a little bit more about your personality. I wouldn't say it's a must-have, but it's more like a nice-to-have. Okay. I think it's also critical to have a cover letter when you want to, let's say, explain if you had like a big gap in your career, or if you're making a change in industry, that you can provide more insights of your motivation that you can't really provide in a resume. So it really depends on like what's the purpose of your cover letter there. But as a recruiter, the first thing to look at would be a resume. Okay, so question is, how do I handle frequent movement on your resume in interviews due to contract roles? Good question. So, I mean, if you are in contract roles, then I would say that you probably want to put bracket contract, so that as an employer or recruiter, we can see that you had these short stints, like a year or 2 years, because it was a contract role. To me, that is fine. If you're in roles, if you're in contract type positions, it's not a red flag. It's because you actually either you chose to be in that, or you decided like that's like how the best fit for you. I think what you're trying to get at is whether it's seen as being very hoppy, or you're hopping around from one job to another. What's important, I guess, in terms of highlighting to your career, what employer really wants to know is a lot of times like your reason for leaving and reason for joining company. Why did you leave this company? If you can give a good reason to it, that's totally fine there. Okay, so question on, what are my thoughts on adding interests or affiliations to show more about your personality, such as sports achievement or fitness, or for example, a member of a public speaking group? Doug, I think that is excellent to highlight. That just showcases more of your personality and character, or things that you care about. I don't know if you heard us saying, and a lot of times I see this, right? Even right now I see on LinkedIn that people say, hire character first over skill. And by talking about highlighting like things that you're passionate about or you're affiliated with, is a great way to showcase your personality. Now, obviously, you want to keep it to a minimal, right? Because it shouldn't be like a big half a page of your resume. By highlighting some of that, it really does make it more interesting. I know, for example, actually, when I worked at Google, part of the Googliness evaluation criteria is they want to see if people have done interesting things outside of work, right? Whether they've run like a marathon or started up a charity or volunteer for a particular group of the googliness, like culture fit as well. So those things certainly help. What about using portfolios to demonstrate success? Many organizations request portfolios even when you are not applying for design or graphic roles. Um, from my personal experience, portfolios are usually more for creative type roles like design, or maybe these days if you're in like a digital marketing or social media, they want to see a bit more portfolio. It doesn't hurt to have that. It's to showcase your work and to give a sense of your style and your brand as well. To me, if people are doing that in your profession industry, then you should have that because that's part of like a baseline requirement. Okay, the question, how does one cover letter showcase a person's personality? Could I give an example? A good question. So I think, how do you give off a personality? I think a big part is first is like, what's your tone of voice, right? The personality, is it more formal or informal? I think even just as an example, it could be like, what are you passionate about? What do you care about? That highlights a bit of your personality already. Or even part of it is like, highlighting like what are you known for in terms of your reputation, like how do people describe you, like that's part of your personality as well. So it's really the character or even your core values. Your core values could also highlight your personality as well. You're welcome, guys. Really appreciate all the thank you messages. Yeah, so Doug, I see one about some recruiters don't like the volunteer work. You know what? I think it really depends. I mean, it's going back the difference between when you say only see performance, it goes back to relevancy, right? There's a difference between saying that you are a member of this group versus that you are a leader in this group. So the value is that you've actually added value as well, versus just saying that you're part of something. It really, honestly, it depends at the end of the day. But I think that, I mean, the way I look at it is if you're joining an organization, I'm thinking out loud right now, let's say TELUS as an example, they have a huge corporate social responsibility focus, and they really encourage their employees to volunteer their time. So when you think about that, they value people who are willing to give back. So by highlighting that you've done volunteer work is a good thing. Okay, anything else? You're welcome. Thank you so much for all your questions. If you have any more questions, I'll stick around for a few more minutes to answer them as well. Yeah, if you are interested in having a one-on-one consultation call with me to see if we're a good fit to work together, please feel free to book a time or just send me an email, diana@mymarketable.com. I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you. I guess last but not least, well, I'll probably end it since I still have a little bit more time here, is that, I've worked with so many people, and I can tell you that I know that job search can be very tough or hard. And so it's so important that you find that motivation, inspiration, whether it's through someone or that you have that accountability or that support to help you move forward, right? Usually when you think of from a job search standpoint, on average, I've worked with people who've got offer in like, a few weeks or a few months, but on average, I would say it's about 3 months, right? By the time that you actually come up with your plan, updating your marketing messages, to really do all that prep work, it takes about a month to 6 weeks to get all that done. And then you need another about 3-4 weeks to network and interview before you get an offer, right? Even as an employer, it takes on average about 8 to 12 weeks to actually fill a role, right? That's how long it usually takes, even for me as a recruiter, to help an employer. By the time we set up the phone screens, the on-site interviews, final interviews, a job offer, it's almost 3 months. So that's probably on average what's the time it takes for people to find a job. If you are, because I know there's a lot of senior folks here, if you are in a more senior level position, meaning at a manager level above or director level, C level, that could even take longer because the more senior the role, like a VP level, the less openings there are. So meaning that they're less likely to pop up. So the key here is that you got to go find the right people to network with, whether it's like the executive recruiters, the headhunters, where they are aware of the openings that may not even be posted yet. Okay. So there's a lot of like tips and strategies you can use to help you at the end of the day is to accelerate the job search success. Don't just rely on applying online because that is not the most effective way, because that's what most people are doing. And so if you've been doing that for a long time and not getting the results, then it's time to do something different to help you get better results. Oh, you guys are so welcome. Thank you for the appreciation messages. It makes me so happy to hear this. I haven't done a webinar like this for quite some time, just because I've been so busy taking care of my little ones. So it's great to be back on camera and to be here on live as well. And I really appreciate your time and your interest. I would love to hear from you. If any questions, please feel free to reach out to me and connect with me on LinkedIn as well. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. And so let me know that you attend my webinar so that we can stay in touch. All right, everyone, have a wonderful rest of the week. I want to wish you an amazing new year filled with abundance of opportunities, success, and prosperity. All right, you take care. Bye now.